Welcome to Coffee with Kay, where we're going to make sure the coffee is always served strong, but it's also going to come with a side of truth, and that's truth with a capital T. The truth of God, that is. I'm here to equip and encourage you, Saint. Yep, that's right, you. And if you're not familiar with the sainthood, I want to teach you what it is, and I want to invite you to the family. So, let's get right into it.
Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race for you. Monday, happy, happy days. Tuesday, happy, happy days. Monday, happy, happy days. Tuesday, happy, happy days.
Hi. I am doing good. Thank you so much for asking. I am so excited to be here. Just a little bit nervous, I think that's normal, but I'm so glad that we're here doing this and having this conversation that is difficult, uncomfortable, but it is what it is. I do have, like I mentioned earlier, a podcast, and it's called Uncomfortable Conversations with Crina.
Crina.
So
Good
it's
morning.
along
Thanks
the
for
same
coming to have
lines.
some
I
coffee with me.
feel like I'm
Welcome to
kind
Coffee
of
with Kay.
used to having
How are
hard
you?
conversations and not afraid to have them either. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is my podcast. Has been on pause, but we'll see what happens and where we go from there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lost you for a sec. Again, here we go. We're back. Where were we? So, uncomfortable conversations with Crina. Yes.
Very, very true. I would probably deem 2020 like moment of vulnerability.
Yeah, that's
For
awesome
sure.
you could do that. And it's awesome that you've gotten to have the opportunities to have some more difficult conversations and just practicing vulnerability and authenticity. Those are two of my favorite words. And I realize sometimes it can be really hard to step into those vulnerable moments and spaces, especially with other people, and then especially with other people that you might not know already. Same here. Same here. It was a hard year, but it was growing and stretching. And if anything, it really just strengthened my faith to be able to see um, Christ and his
100%
church for
agree.
who he is and what the church is supposed to be in his design, and just kind of get back to the basics because I don't know, it was just kind of hard seeing the way that churches responded last year and like the way Christians responded last year, and like having churches shut down, and just kind of weird once in a lifetime things that I pray will never have to experience again. But knowing what the end time prophecies, we're going to experience it again, and it's going to be like even worse next time. So I feel like it's such good practice to get in the groove of having these hard talks. Yes, man. So full disclosure for our listeners today, we're going to be having some vulnerable
Yes.
talks that are going to be centered around pornography. There will be some sexual content in this episode. There will be talks of masturbation or just being exposed to sexual things in childhood and adolescence. So, if that is something that is triggering for you, please stop the podcast now or just be aware before you continue listening. And I would suggest not having kids around for this episode and just letting this be an adult episode. So I invited Crina to have some coffee today after she had shared just a little bit of her story on Instagram about taking proper precautions with technology for your kids and why it's important to guard your kids from viewing or being exposed to sexual content in their adolescence, in their prepubescent years, in their toddlerhood, and just kind of shared a little bit of her story. So I sent her a message just sharing a little bit of my story. And if you have read my book, Sewn, there are a couple poems about my experience being flashed when I was uh, about 10 years old and just being overexposed to sexual content. I stumbled upon pornography when I was 12, and I was I was exposed to like the bisexual lifestyle around that same time. And it really warped my perception of my identity. And it was very, very confusing for me. And I never talked about it with anybody until I was in college with my girlfriend, because I figured having all of these weird experiences and like uncomfortable experiences with sex was maybe why boys didn't like me, or like why I seemed to not get along with girls as like friends, but somehow I could get along with them well as a girlfriend, and I could never get along with a boy as a boyfriend, because maybe all these experiences and all these traumas just meant that I was gay. And that's what, God was trying to tell me. And so we just started having a little back and forth on Instagram, where I invited Crina to come on and just hang out with me for a little while and just share more of her story and what God has been teaching her and has taught her through her life. So I am going to let Crina take the floor and tell you guys about what I've gotten to learn so far about her and her story. And I pray that you'll just hear it with open ears and open hearts, that it will be an edifying conversation for you listeners, because it's a sensitive thing and it can be so embarrassing. And my husband and I have talked about recently how not there we've been to one church forum our entire marriage and our entire parenthood that has been offered about teaching your kids about sex. And personally, I kind of see that as an issue. That out of our almost 6 years of marriage and 5 years of parenthood, there's only been one conference ever offered to us from our church body about how to walk through teaching our kids about sex in this culture, in this day and age, where, I kid you not, but they have condom commercials on YouTube that will pop up while my kids are watching VeggieTales, and it's a caricature of two men about to like
Wow.
go into bed together, and this condom pops up on the screen, and I have never turned the TV off so fast in my life. So we can't even act like this isn't a problem anymore. It's a problem. It's been a problem. Everybody knows it's a problem. I can't even remember the Pew Research study. I think it's about like, if not more, 60% of men engage in pornography that are attending regularly their local church. 60%, guys. So this isn't a time for us to be prude. This isn't a time for us to be embarrassed or act like that will never happen to me or that it's never happened to you. And we're not,
Thank
this is
you.
not a judgment
You
episode.
made
This
so
is
many valid
Crina and I's
points
real
just in that
lives. And these
conversation
are other
alone.
people's real lives and other children's real lives.
There
And we take this
is
so,
a
so seriously. And
huge
God takes it
risk
so, so seriously.
going
So we're
forward
here to
that
fill
we're
in the gap.
facing
We're
as
here to talk about
parents.
it. And I
And
just pray that you would receive this
I feel
episode with
I say
the
this, I
intent to learn
say
and grow
we're
from it
raising
and
children
make a
in a
change,
really,
whether
really
it's in
tough
your own family,
generation.
your own
And
household,
then there's this
your own
argument that
parenting
every
life, and
generation
maybe
is
even your
tough to
own
raise
local
your
church
children in,
body.
which
So
I agree to
I'm
that
going to let
to
you take
some
it
point,
away,
but
Crina.
never have we ever had the technology advances that we have now. That factor changes pretty much everything. We 90s babies we were introduced to the internet We had that overexposure to it. And to be honest, my exposure to pornography was not the internet, it was TV. So I'll go ahead and get into my testimony about that. So
Yeah.
I remember, I can't specifically say the first time that I saw pornography. I can't remember that.
Right.
But what I do remember is watching, I'm not sure, or maybe most of you know, HBO had a docu-series, just a show. It was called Real Sex. And on that, I was exposed to it. And what I remember vividly is my parents having a code, and I knew the code. I saw them enter the code in to the TV one day, and I got the code. And I remember 100% hiding it. I was in my room. It was late at night. I was always listening for noise. And so I knew that what I was doing was wrong, but I never, ever told anyone. I was in the very same boat as you. And honestly, to this day, I still don't think my parents know what type of situation I was under. So I did actually tell them that I was recording this podcast about the hyper-sexualization of our society and how we can protect our children. But I didn't tell them any further details than that. And I wonder if they're going to listen to this. I really just want to make this clear. I am not putting blame on my parents, because I think that they did the best that they could. And just to backtrack a little bit, I came from Romania. I came from a different culture. There are just some things that they were a little bit ignorant to and not necessarily aware. So that is something that is a key message to this conversation, is awareness and level of awareness as parents that we need to have. Being blind to anything is not going to be the solution. So that's why we're having this conversation. So I was probably about 12, same age when I was exposed to it. But the thing that I implemented while watching porn was masturbation. And so much so that it was a habit. And then I would even go as far to say as an addiction, just because it was something that I was doing so often at a very young age. With that being said, it's very important to realize as parents who our children are being surrounded by. I 100% rebelled. We went to Romania at the age of 14. I was 14, my brother was 17, and I just had this conversation with him, and I'm so glad that I had that conversation with him before coming on the show, because he really made me aware of some things. So I always said, when I went to Romania, I became an adult. I went and started smoking cigarettes, started drinking alcohol, getting drunk. And I really, really wanted to have sexual interaction. I was 14. Nobody wanted to have sexual interaction with me, but I just had this like drive and this a sexual drive 100%, because man, oh man, I don't think people realize how real hormones are and how evil the enemy can be. So came back from Romania, and I had a specific friend who she went to her country of origin, and she's like, guys, I came back and I had sex and lost my virginity random stranger. Oh my gosh, it was the coolest thing ever. Like, this is awesome. Sex is awesome. So that's why I make it very clear that who you surround yourself with and your children plays a big role in all of this. It was then when I was like, I need to lose my virginity. I need to have sex. I want to have sex. It was freshman year of high school, and at our school, they separate the freshmen from the seniors, or not from the seniors, from 10, 12, 10, 11, 12. So completely different, separate campus. So it's a whole bunch of freshmen at one campus, kind of just getting the roots. And the other thing about that is all of the middle schools in our city combined. So now you got new friends, new people, and you could see the different dynamics of all of it, right? So there, I started gearing towards the people that did the drugs, had sex, drank. Like, that was I was like, that's the lifestyle that I want to live. I like that. It's fun. It's exhilarating. It's it's high school. Like, it was almost like, hey, you only go to high school once. Like, I was in the mentality of high school being college, almost like in a college sense. So I had just grown up so fast in the matter of, like, who knows, like maybe a year. And then it was when I was 14 that I lost my virginity to lose my virginity. It wasn't with somebody that I loved. It wasn't with a boyfriend. And I really, really, like, always wondered, I'm like, why doesn't anybody want to be my boyfriend? Like, why isn't anybody asking me to be their girlfriend? Maybe if I give my body, maybe if I do that, they'll want me. So there was a lot of lack of self-worth and what my body truly meant and what kind of a temple it actually was. Did not have that understanding at all. And then I failed to mention this, but I had, ever since coming to America in 1997, we attended a church, an Orthodox Christian church. It was an every Sunday type of church. So every Sunday you go, but when you come back, it was like no talk about it, like it was just a very, very strict Sunday. Like, you go every Sunday, but to come back and like reevaluate and implement and apply, it just wasn't part of how the church works, the Orthodox Church functions, is what I'm coming to terms with now. So I did have a church background. I knew God. I knew there was a God. Like, I even prayed to God, knowing that there was a higher being that controlled everything, that he was the creator of the earth, but I did not know Jesus. A very big distinction in my story. So going forward, losing my virginity at the age of 14, that was the start of my hyper-sexual lifestyle.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
That's when very influenced by music, very influenced by my friends, super like into drugs, and not like even just such a young age. It makes me feel like how in the world did I get so deep into that? And I still have a lot of questions, but I try not to think about it too much. But into drugs and just being rebellious, like doing the complete opposite of what I was supposed to do, was exhilarating to me, and I think it's the enemy telling you it's fun, and it's it's pleasure. It's just fulfilling my flesh. Like every fleshly desire that I had, I 100% went for it. And so, continued to share my body. I ended up having a boyfriend, ended up having sex with him, cheating on him, and just seriously disrespecting my body to the ultimate, from like person to person. And I'm not ashamed of who I am, especially knowing what Christ says now. But that took a lot too, that many revelations over time, and just sharing my body over and over. And then I ended up getting into a relationship with somebody that that lasted a little longer, but the relationship literally started on sex. Like we had sex and that's how the relationship started. Not courting, I had no idea what a date was. I had no idea how to be treated by a person who loves you. It was built off of sex. And then that relationship was absolutely abusive, not physically, verbally and emotionally. He was a very jealous person. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of free time. And what we did was we hung out with a very specific group of people. We all fed off of each other. And it was just such a terrible situation to be in. I had a best friend in this time who I would always spend the night at her house. My parents completely trusted that situation, which they regret now. What ended up happening is this best friend of mine ended up having sex with that person repeatedly. So both of them ended up having a outside relationship when I wasn't around, and that completely tore me apart. I remember my boyfriend, he was doing drugs, and he got so messed up one night that he ended up calling me at like 4 a.m. on a school night. I'm literally in high school right now. This is probably junior year. And he calls me at 4 a.m. on a school night, and he, I think, graduated by now. Told me, he's like, hey, I'm confessing. This is what's been going on. Of course, my world flipped upside down. I call that person. I call her at 5 a.m. and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, is this true? Is this true? And she couldn't even say it. She couldn't even like admit it. And then the next day I did something that I really regret, and I wish I never did it. But I, again, reacted out of flesh 100%. And I told everybody at school. And I was like, I'm going to hurt this person as much as as she hurt me. And to this day, I wish I could talk to this person and ask her for forgiveness for that. I forgive her for what she did to me, but want her to know that that was just the wrong thing to do. And I was just so hurt. And I hope that, she knows that. But from then on, that was about 16 years old. And at this point in time, I surrounded myself. I had one friend who went to church. And she told me, she's like, you need to come to church with me. And she brought me to the big fellowship church. I'm not sure if you've heard of it in Grapevine. It's huge, massive church. And so she ended up taking me to fellowship church. It was a Wednesday service for strictly teens, and God spoke to me. I met Jesus Christ. And that was I 100%, I was like, he literally was basically in that sermon was like, you are enough. What you've done doesn't represent who you are. And it literally speaking to me, I just needed to hear exactly that. And people know. People, like, when you meet Jesus, when you're saved, it's just a feeling that you can't
Oh,
describe.
wow.
And it's like peace, comfort, just everything like was like laid out. Like everything was great for me in that moment. So my story is a little bit different than, I mean, I don't know. I can't say it's different than most, but I found Jesus, but
Mhm.
that didn't change me. That didn't, I didn't go back to fellowship. What happened was, it did change me. Don't get me wrong. It did. My view and my perspective on life completely changed,
Right.
but I was not, and then this is where I'm learning now. I was not properly discipled after that. So I was on the journey on my own. I said, what I told myself is like, wow, I know Jesus exists. I am going to do this the Orthodox way, the Orthodox Christian way. So I'm going to get in my church. Yes, I found him here, but I want to do it here. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So I was like, okay, I still never confessed to my parents, like everything. And at this point in time, I was definitely still watching porn, definitely still masturbating. I did not know, still doing drugs, still, I did not know how to properly cope with any of these emotions and absolutely traumatic experiences that I had already gone through in 3 years as a child, as a literal child, from traumatic breakup to sex to worthlessness to just hopelessness, just all of that combined. I did not know how to properly manage that stress. So what happened next when I like started what the Orthodox Church says to do is to confess your sins. Confess your sins to the priest, and then you should be good, right? So I did that. I did that at the age of 17 or 18 years old. And the way that they do it at the church, at the Christian church or Orthodox church, is something that like now I'm like, oh my goodness, it's wild to me. But I confessed my sins to this man, literally to a man, and nothing changed. Nothing. Like I didn't have any help from the church. He didn't pursue
Right.
anything. He didn't help me go forward. He didn't tell me read your Bible. He just prayed over me. He pretty much just prayed over me. But no guidance going forward at all. So again, the journey was me and God. And this is something that I want to make very clear. As much as God wants us to have a relationship with him, I think it's so important to have guidance here on earth, like someone helping you in the matter. And just like you mentioned, like, man, the church, guys, we're just so disconnected from this topic and the reality of this topic. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Samuel and I
Yep.
talked about that last week. Yeah, how important it is to be disciplers and have discipleship.
Yes.
Like it is pivotal. And I don't know why like that struck me when I was saved, but it was like one of the first scriptures that really stuck in my mind. Well, it was in like so you and I have that similarity coming out
Yeah.
of kind of Orthodox faith. I was raised Catholic and I ended up
Mm-hmm.
converting to Protestantism. And I don't claim a denomination anymore, but I mean it's day and night difference. But I was like, okay, well, the Bible says that after you're saved, you get baptized and you go get
Yep.
discipled. So I was like, I
Yes.
remember going to church and I was like, I need
Yep.
somebody to disciple me. And it's kind of like, what? I was like, but I mean, that's what the Bible says. It says
I
that I
need
should
help.
find a mentor. And so I did. And I remember the adults around me were like, that's not a very common thing that kids your age ask us. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it literally says it right here to do that.
Yep.
Like, go and make disciples and go and be discipled. Like, it is a commandment. We're supposed to do it. And so, and I didn't mean it in anything self-righteous. It was just for me. I was
Yes.
like, I mean, I'm just doing what it says, and I'm not trying to be legalistic or anything, but like, I want to understand this. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like,
No,
teach me,
and I can
please.
tell
And
you right now,
I'm
the
so
lack of
grateful that God
discipleship in my
like pressed
life
that on my heart, because
1000%
I
has
know
affected it, and
100% if
where
I
I'm at
never
today,
sought
right now.
discipleship, like, I would not have grown.
So I
If
remember getting a
at all, if
Bible when
not
I was
nearly
like
as much
17 or
as I
18
have.
years old,
And I know
but
my marriage
reading
would
it
be
and
triple
opening
as
it and
hard.
understanding
Like,
to
everything in my life
pray
would be
and
so much
just
harder had I
the
not done that.
actions
And
and
so, like, yeah,
applying all of
hit
that
the nail
was
on the head. You're
not a
exactly right with
concept that I
that, for
understood,
sure.
and it just didn't happen. So I was a very, what I would consider now a lukewarm Christian. I wasn't preaching the gospel, but man, oh man, did I rely on God and Jesus so hard. But the thing was, I would do things like I would, and I feel so guilty about it now, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We would go to clubs, do drugs, but before even going, I would pray to God to protect us. And he did. He honestly, he did, throughout it all. And the sexualization didn't stop. The listening to terrible sexual music didn't stop. I ended up being with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, at the age of 19, and it was just a sex-based relationship yet again, finding my worth in sex rather than finding my worth in Jesus and respecting my body. And it trickled into a lot of things into our marriage, and we're, Lord willing, Lord is now helping us battle those things that we had gone through. Because as much as it's not, I mean, we both are at fault with different things, but he didn't even know how to respect me because I didn't even know how to respect myself. And how could I put that pressure on him when he literally did not know and had no conscientious action? He's like, this is what I got, this is what I'm gonna get, type of thing. And man, did we have so many ups and downs as an unmarried couple. And had I been discipled, and had I known what to look for in a boyfriend, what to look for in a husband, what to seek, maybe things would be a little bit different. But I loved my husband, and we ended up having a baby out of wedlock. But I really trusted God that if he was going to give me a baby with this man, this is going to be the man that I'm going to be together with for the rest of my life. So I really, really trusted that that theory. I don't know how logical it is, but that was something I rested in, and we did get married, and now we are pregnant with our third baby. It wasn't, thank you. It wasn't, honestly, maybe 2 years ago, when I opened my Bible, literally opened my Bible and actually wanted to see what was in there. I was led that way through a different book that I had read. I was always in conspiracy theories. So I read a book that I really, really enjoyed reading called Judgment of the Nephilim by Ryan Pitterson, who he very, very much so resources the Bible in there. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to go in the Bible. And then that was that just like brought me to the Bible. Like God knew what he was doing when he was doing that. And 2020 opened my eyes. 2020 opened my eyes to how much things that we can't control, except our relationship with Christ, except how much faith we want to put in this, because the world is the world. It is unknown. It will always be unknown. You can't like expect to rely on the future. You have to rely on God. And he revealed that so blatantly when everything shut down. Oh, it was just a very, very big revelation to me. So honestly, I was reading the Bible prior to, I was going to church. Oh man, I kind of got ahead of myself here. After my firstborn son, after my firstborn was born, we ended up going to the village church. And I finally left the Orthodox church. But still, even then, it wasn't like a revelation like I had last year. So after this revelation and just getting so much closer to God, so much was revealed to me over time. And I had to deal with so many different things. And I was like, I think I know what was missing in my life all those years. And it was Jesus and understanding the Bible. And I was like, I can't set my kids up for that. I have to be so strong in faith and so strong in the word and know it. I need to focus on me and knowing it as much as I can so that I can prep them. So that is pretty much where I'm at now, and understanding how important it is for me to be full in faith in order for my family to be full in faith. But I was convicted over pornography in this time, probably about a year ago, I would say. I was like, all right, it's even like, I would say maybe like, so into like the first year of my firstborn's life, I was still heavily doing it, watching pornography behind my husband's back. He had absolutely no idea. And I was masturbating we were so disconnected during that time. And then my second son was born, and just had more revelation, more convictions. I started like trickling down, but it wasn't until like maybe a year ago where I actually like disconnected from that. Sometimes I would go back to it. Sometimes I would just sometimes I would just go back to it, feel so dirty, so gross, disgusting after all of that. And I knew like over and over how heavy it like made me feel. And then it wasn't until maybe, about a year ago that I was officially convicted with like the human sex trafficking and just that side of it, that I was like, that's it. There's no way I'll ever go back. And not only did I completely cut out pornography, but I completely cut out masturbation. And I guess I could say I'm somewhat roughly clean of that for a little bit of, maybe a little less than a year, to be honest. So it's still, I would say a year. Yeah. So it's still fresh. Like all of those things still stick with me sometimes. And I genuinely believe that all of that overexposure, normalization, 100% normal. Like I remember having conversations with my friends like, oh, we watch porn together. Oh, we do this together. Oh, it's okay if you do that. Everybody was telling me it was okay. Literally everyone was like, it was an open conversation with my girlfriends. Like, everyone does it. It's totally normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And nobody was ever telling me that it was wrong, but I kind of knew that it was wrong. And, like, and I mean, I knew it was wrong, but everybody normalized it so much that it's just like still
Right.
okay in a way. I don't know. But, I even confessed to my husband, he knows, after the fact, it's like, hey, I did struggle with these things, and I'm now convicted of them. And, I am letting you know that a lot of that played a role in my life. And I feel like I do need to speak up about it now. So I want you to be aware that I will. And I want to change things, going forward, especially with our future generations to come. And, it was like a huge eye-opening experience. And now the music I hear, the things I see on TV, it's just full on conviction. It is full on, like, what have we done? What have we done as a society? And how can we change this? But yeah, never had help from the church, never confessed, never felt good enough to confess this to anybody and ask for help. So it was a really, really long battle alone. And this is another reason why I want to be so open about it for the people that are struggling with it today. It's not something that you do have to do alone. And the longer you do it alone, the longer it's going to take for you to change those habits and move forward. So that's a really, really big reason also why I'm here, not only for our future, for our children, but for the people that are struggling with it today. But yeah, that's pretty much a good summary of I would say about 10 years of experiencing hyper-sexualization, convictions, and just from the starting point to where I am now, that was about a 10-year gap. So, and then there's so many different things in between that we just can't even get into. But yeah, it's so much. But that's pretty much the gist of of all of that.
Gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me. There's nothing can hold me. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's rocking and rolling.